Hey, good afternoon. Just checking in now for the session for this afternoon. No, we're not. Take it off. I don't know what's happened there. Can you hear me? I'm just going to put in my headphone. It makes a bit of a noise when I do it the other way. Okay. So we've got one person. I'm just checking to see. Hi. Okay. Now I've opened it up. Is anybody there? Okay. I'll wait for 5 minutes, and if nobody has attended, I will conclude the session. Hello. We have somebody today. Okay, I haven't started, so I think Dimity, it's you and me today. So I'm going to start with this presentation and start to go through. And if anyone else pops in, we'll continue to go. So I'm just going to do a bit of a rundown, and feel free at any time to chat or Q&A if you want to, or I can open it up for open discussion. So what I'm covering today is the new COVID-19 grants that have just been opened up on earlier this week. And I'm just going to go through to the next page. So originally it was promoted as $5,000 funding through the state government, but it's now up to $10,000 for smaller employing businesses and up to $30,000 to the larger businesses. So this is joint state and Commonwealth Government funding for businesses located anywhere in Queensland who were impacted by the lockdown from the 31st of July to the 8th of August, and from the Cairns and Yarrabah City Council areas from 8th of August to the 11th of August, or any other lockdown in August 2021, in case they put that in the guidelines to cover off for anybody else that may be included during this period of time. So as mentioned earlier, the grants are between $10,000 and $30,000, depending on the size and the eligibility criteria, and whether that they're employing businesses, so that excludes business owners or non-profit organisations who employ people. It opened on the 16th of August and will stay open for 3 months until 16th of November. The $1,000 grants for non-employing sole traders, we're still waiting to get the eligibility criteria on that. And from what I've read on the Services Australia website, they have some COVID disaster funding. However, they're saying to go to the state government first, and that information hasn't been released as yet, but it will be available on the website soon. And I'll guide you through to those websites as we go through this presentation. So new information, there might likely be some minor adjustments here and there, and there's still information yet to be uploaded online. And again, it's not restricted to the South East Queensland area where the lockdowns were, because there are other businesses that would have relied on and have had some impact as a result, indirect or directly. So there is a website, and I will navigate through that with you as we go through the presentation. So the tiered payments is based on payroll size for eligible businesses and non-for-profits across Queensland. So there's a $10,000 grant for employing small businesses and non-profit organisations with a payroll of less than 1.3 million. So that's how many people on your payroll. 15,000 to medium, which is the 1.3 to 10 million, and the 30,000, it's for people that meet within the asset code and ANZIC codes, which is the industry codes for the tourism and hospitality industries, with the annual payroll of greater than 10 million. So to be eligible, the business has to be for the Queensland government funding, even though it is joint funding, but it's a Queensland-based business. There are some incentives in other states, but we're focusing only on Queensland for the purposes of this presentation. And so they would have had to have been headquartered in Queensland and operating since 30th of June 2021. business turnovers, a minimum of 75,000 in either of these 3 financial years, with a maximum of 10 million in payroll unless they're identified in the hospitality or tourism sector. Can be a newer business, so even if the business has only been operating, say, 6 or 8 months, if they can be like a evidence that you can be meeting that 75,000 in this financial year, particularly you could probably demonstrate through BAS statements and whatnot to show that you'll have that likely income over that period of time. That you have an active ABN and registered for the GST. Mine, the grant is an ex-GST amount, so it's a $10,000 grant. You won't get GST on that. However, there will be, and it is accessible as taxable income. And also that the directors are not insolvent or undischarged bankrupt, which is very typical of the grants, and must demonstrate payroll records and financials and employ staff in addition to the business owners. So if it's just the business owners in the company, it does not allow for that at this current time that I can see. And I've gone through this all, and I've spoken to accounting professionals, and we've looked through this all, and that's how we're reading the documentation. So how the eligibility works is that the business is directly or indirectly affected by the lockdown. I've gone through the process with a business. The application is fairly straightforward, and it is very easy to get through, provided you can either demonstrate this through a self-declaration, which means you provide all the evidence through your MYOB or your tax records, BAS statements, anything to show that you've got your turnover. Indirect impact, again, you need to declare that information, and you can provide that evidence, or you can have your accountant provide that letter for you if they'll complete the letter. So the guidelines for the non-employing sole traders, so that still requires some definition, because at the present time this funding is for employing businesses, and it does cover for employing sole traders. However, for the non-employing sole traders, we're not sure if that covers non-employing companies. So we have to see what that has, what information comes out of that, but we still haven't got any guidelines around that. But you can register your interest online through the website, and I will take you through that in a short moment once we get through this part of the presentation. People who are not eligible are businesses and non-profit organisations outside of Queensland. The businesses and the non-profit organisations eligible to receive income support through the COVID disaster payment, which is Services Australia. However, and I will show you later that the Services Australia website tells you to come through the state government first before you go to them. So, but if you've got one, you can't have both payments at the same time. Businesses and non-for-profit organisations where the only source of income is made up of rents, dividends, or interest payments. So if it's not actually trading in any particular way, they won't be eligible. A person applying for an eligible business or non-profit organisation that's already received a grant under this program. So you can't go for this twice, is what it's saying, under this particular grant. So if you've received other funding, that's okay through other programs, through the state government, but not through this particular COVID-19 2021 application. So the business has, again, note that a business that has received or is eligible to receive a grant under this program would be ineligible for the proposed one-off cash grant to non-employing businesses. So again, we have to see what that non-employing businesses mean, whether that just means an ABN holder or whether it includes companies as well. So we're still waiting for those guidelines. So in response to the grant questions, as I said, it's very straightforward. you go through the QRIDA portal, and I'll show you how to get to that to register. It's very different to Smarty Grants, and but there is a link that will take you there through the business.qld.gov.au website, and I will throw up those links in a short while. There is no sample application form, as has been provided with recent grants that were launched through the Queensland Government website as a pre-launch, but this one hasn't had one. So there is no application you can look at. You just purely have to have all your information. Other things that they will require when you go through the application process is to have your information ready. So that is the evidence that is from the tax department, your accountant's letter, or anything that you've got that can substantiate your $75,000 turnover and your decrease in income for that 2019 or this current year or a comparative period. You need to be the applicant, so nobody can apply on your behalf. And other things that they ask for when you get in there, having gone through this process with somebody, 2 forms of ID they require, so like your driver's license, Medicare, passport, that type of ID, your ATO information like your company tax return, or that accountant's information like your profit and loss, and that, or and you need to have your bank details ready because that's where they deposit the funds, and proof of address if needed. So it could be a utility bill or and also you will need to have a website link as well, because they do ask for that in the application if you've got one. So the frequently asked questions are also available on the website, and they can be found, and I'll point to that when we finish this presentation. I'll run through the live website as it stands today, because again, things could be changed even as I speak. So do you need supplier quotes? These are very typical questions people will ask about this funding. Do you need supplier quotes? Well, it's not for anything specific. So no, the grant funding may be spent on any business expense, and as such, quotes are not required. If the business is new and you don't have the turnover for the last financial year, yes, you can apply so long as you had a valid ABN as at the 30th of June, 2021 or earlier. And obviously GST registered, and you'll be able to provide other supporting evidence to demonstrate your eligibility. And can you apply if you've already received a small business grant or loan in the past? Yes, all previously successful applicants of Queensland Government programs are eligible to apply. This comes straight out of the frequently asked questions from the government. So yes, you can apply as per the guidelines. Sole traders are eligible if they're employing sole traders. Again, there's a different program from the non-employing sole traders. And again, we'll talk about the Australian government's disaster payment. So that's Services Australia, as mentioned earlier. There is the Australian government saying go to the state first to see if the disaster payment, there is the non-employing sole trader payment available there. And I don't know if that $1,000 will be available for companies who are self-employed, non-employing. It's very specific here, but we don't have those guidelines as yet. Non-profits are eligible, and can you apply twice if you have 2 businesses? And quite often there are people who do have more than one business, and if they employ people and they meet all the eligibility criteria, they say yes, you can, according to the frequently asked questions. So if you have multiple businesses, each with a different ABN, and you meet the eligibility criteria for each one of those entities, yes, you can apply. Is the application simple? Yes, and it is fairly quick. It didn't take long. As I said, yeah, it's a very quick process. It's very user friendly, but you just need to make sure you have all your information ready to go, and it's going to be relatively quick. So there are other grants that are on offer, and the details are still yet to be finalised for businesses who had to do a major clean and they were identified as one of the COVID affected businesses. There will be some rebate for professional cleaning costs of up to 80%, capped at 10,000 per incident, where the business has been identified as a COVID-19 exposure site by Queensland Health. And so there is a website there, and I do have a list of links which we can email out to you as well. There is another grant to consider, and next week I'll be covering off on the Business Basics grant for round 2. I believe that many people have been advised of their outcomes in recent days. So if you were not eligible, we'll be running through another session next week to see if there's anything I can gather from that past round to try and help in the next round for the Business Basics grant, which was covering for businesses with turnover of less than 300,000 a year for a range of different activities, from professional services to training to digital and website development. So there is some other funding available that will be released, due for launch on the 25th, which means they will pre-release guidelines and other information. It was due to be launched on the 17th of August, but they pushed it out, and we don't know if that'll be pushed out again. So we are aiming that and hoping that the guidelines will be ready for the public on the 25th of August, with a due date for opening applications at 9 a.m. on the 8th of September. That one has limited funding. Unlike the 2021 COVID grants, there's no limit to the amount of funding that's available. However, you need to meet the eligibility criteria. So I'll just move on to the next page. So as I said, this information was valid, well, actually to the 17th, and I've checked again today. So the information provided here was as good as we could get at this particular point in time. So if you do have any further questions, you can link to my profile through the, oh, I've got a question here. Okay, that's fine. If you can't hear me, I am going to be back on next Tuesday for anyone who's not available for that session to watch the rest of this session. Otherwise, there's my link, and through the Business Station, you can reach out through Business Station to get hold of me. But I am running another session next Tuesday afternoon on this, and hopefully we'll have more information about the non-employing sole traders by then. Okay, so I'm just going to go through, this is where we find all the information. So I'm going to put it in the chat box. This is the schedule where you find all of the small business grants. So where's my little chat? Okay. So if you want to get a copy of that, and if you haven't got that already, this one, as I said, the non-employing sole traders is still to be confirmed. This one here, which is for the employing, this one here, again, you get to that point here, all in the schedule, what I've just put up there. We're going to the 2021 lockdown, okay? And that's where I've gone to. So that tells us where the grants are available or what they're for. Now, the interesting thing about this is for the non-employing sole traders, this is the 1,000 one-off grant. All you need to do, if anyone's interested, is to go and give them your information and they will come back to you regarding that particular grant funding. At the present time, it's not out yet and we're just waiting for that information to be released. For the employing businesses, who can apply? And for these, you have to have more than your 75,000 as mentioned. And then there's the medium size. Again, it goes on your payroll size of 1.3 to 10 million, and likewise. There's an eligibility checker. And again, as mentioned earlier, they're very big on employment of staff. And this has been a lot of questions were asked in my last session. And I have spoken with a lot of companies, and there are a lot of companies who are self-employed and hire contractors but don't necessarily employ people. But in this particular grant, the employees must be in addition to the owners or directors of your business or non-profit and be employed on your payroll. So they have to be separate in order to check your eligibility. So there is a bit of a question and answer. Do you have an ABN? Are you registered for GST? So there is a bit of a, you can go through that part and then it'll take you through. So the frequently asked questions, again, for the large businesses, the ANZIC codes that reflect to that come into your pubs and clubs and travel agents. For anybody who's in that tourism and hospitality sector. And that's your larger size business. So frequently asked questions, all you have to do is click on that and then you can download that information. And that's where you'll find all the information that's current. So this one, it gets constantly updated. So this is what's right there right now. Again, and then the guidelines are also here too, where we download those. Now, the interesting thing about this is the program, who can apply. And this is where we still need to get some clarification. I'm trying to get that. But it says at the time of applying, they must be employing staff. So whether or not, and I've had people say, look, I've had people on contract before, but they, you know, I had to, and then I employed them, but then I had to put them on contract later. Again, at the time of applying, we're not quite sure what exactly that means. So because you can apply up until the 16th of November, I'm not 100% sure whether that means if you can employ people later. So that's a question to ask the department. Again, we've gone through all these particular areas in the guidelines of who can apply. So the eligibility, employ staff, be Queensland headquarter, business, direct impact, must not operate. So if you're locked down and had to close, indirect that are able to operate, and that you can show a reduction of turnover of more than 30%. So these are all very straightforward guidelines. And again, they will be processed in order of when they're received, and they'll be paid within 2 weeks of approval and to the nominated bank account. And again, that will be open for 3 months. So when we go back here to get onto the QRIDA portal, this is where how to apply. You can go then to this portal. So what you would have to do is to register, and that's where they'll go through that process. You create a new email address and a password. They send you an email, and then you say, yes, this is me, and then it'll send you a link to go through the process of applying for that funding. So again, that was creating a QRIDA portal. So that's the whole process. You just click on that, which is where we've gone there to register. So you can, if you've already got a login from a previous grant, you can just log in again, or you can register for a new profile. And then, yeah, again, it would just be to test your password. Supporting evidence, a reduction of 30% or more. So you have to demonstrate that you have experienced a reduction of 30% over a 7-day period, including 1 full day of the lockdown event, compared to the same 7-day period in July or August 2019. So if the 2019 period doesn't indicate a typical weekly turnover, include another nominated 7-day period, for example, July and August in 2020. So they want you to compare a week against another week to show that you've had a 30% reduction. So for the direct impact, you complete the declaration in the application. Indirect, if you're indirectly affected, you submit your sales turnover for the relevant periods, or and you rely on a dated letter on a letterhead from the accountant. And if you employ staff, you need to attach your payroll information. So it could be on your business financial statements or payroll records or payroll tax return, or it can all just be put on through a letter through the template from the accountant or tax professional. So again, this can be downloaded, and a lot of accountants are aware of this if you're needing to go, or you can get a ASBAS agent to fill this in according to this. So we're opening this up, open that file. So this particular one here has to be a qualified accountant, tax agent, or a ASBAS agent. And they've got their instructions. So they will ask about the information of the business, who they are, and then they just put in the figure that's required for that financial year, and they'll work out an aggregate, and then they fill in the details and again their information. So you give that to the accountant or registered tax agent or ASBAS agent and submit that, and that just gets uploaded with your application. But you need to apply for it. The government won't let your accountant do it for you. This is something you have to do by yourself. So you need to go and create this profile, and you go in and make the application for this funding. So again, the guidelines were there before. They've got a couple of places where you can find this. And yeah, so does anyone have any questions? Oh yeah, just on this. So when I talked about the Centrelink payments, so there is another link here, and I do have a list of links here, so I can put these up. So this one here, so this is for the COVID-19 disaster payments through Services Australia. Who can get it? I'll just put this into the chat box. So this one tells you if you're a sole trader, you should check to see if you're eligible for your state or territory's COVID-19 business support payment first. So when we came here, you're either the employing business or the non-employing sole trader. So with the non-employing sole trader, the $1,000 or the other type of grant, again, you need to register your interest there until the guidelines come out, because they're not out yet. And you can keep an eye on this grant schedule And see here, it says you can subscribe to the Small Business Connect newsletter. If you click on that, they will send you all the information out from Business Queensland about upcoming grants into the future that you might be eligible for. So as I discussed earlier, there's a few different grants that come out from time to time. And recently we had dollar for dollar grants, which was like the entrepreneur grants and digital grants program. And in last year, there was the Adaption grant funding. The Business Basics grant is a $5,000 one-off upfront payment. The last one was for businesses with turnover of less than 300,000. The Business Boost grant was 15,000, and that one I believe was for that gets paid at the end with the contribution from the business owner, and that one was for the over the $300,000 to $600,000 turnover business, but that one's been closed, so we don't know when a next round will be open for that. The Business Growth Fund, that's for equipment, and that's for larger businesses. And so these business, there may be another round coming up for this into the future. And but what we're dealing with today are these COVID grants. So the 1,000 one, this one here, this grant schedule is the one to keep your eye open for. And this one here is where you'll find all this. So if you're looking to apply for any of these sorts of grants, this is when they all come up. Again, when we go there, this is just takes us back to the same screen, and it, other than that, you can only register your interest for the non-employing sole traders. So have we got any questions and answers that I can help anyone with? The areas that were covered during the period. So if we're talking about directly affected, this was the directive at the time. So I've got that on my links page. It's a fairly long link, but a lockdown area was one that was a directly affected area. And so this particular link, I'll put it in here. It took me a little while to find, so it might be useful to, I'll put that in the, it tells you about what restricted access to and from lockdown areas, so how you were affected. So this could be in part of your description where you weren't able to, you were a non-essential business owner, you could not attend your work. So there's a whole lot of areas here where the restrictions had a direct impact on business. So this may be something that may be of use to you. It's the area that they refer to. It's revoked because it was in the past. So if you look on restrictions today, it'll tell you what's today. So you have to search through these, the health directions as per the time when the lockdown happened. So there is another directive for the Cairns one, and they refer to that here as to the health directive as to when that was affected. So it was restricted to that time frame between the 8th, the 31st of South East Queensland on the 31st of July, and then the other period of time for, so these are the two times, and that refers to these 11 LGAs where businesses that were directly affected that had to close and you couldn't open if you were a non-essential, or if there were restrictions that prevented you from doing your work or your business. And then the Cairns Yarrabah location from the 8th to the 11th, so that affected those two local government areas. Again, they're very specific for the employing staff. Employees must be on your payroll and does not include any business owners. And there is actually a question when you go inside the portal that says business owners and then how many employees, and these must, you've got to put a number of how many people are employed outside of the actual owners of the business, and needing to be registered for GST. And again, this is all part of what's here, but the eligibility checker, as I said, it does go through it quite extensively about the frequently asked questions. And then again, it goes into quite a lot of detail in the frequently asked questions. And if you're not sure and you can't find the answer you're looking for, there is a number that you can get hold of, and you'll find that in the guidelines of where to, hang on. No, it's in the frequently asked questions. There is a number at the very end if you need to get some support, if you're not sure. No, it's in the guidelines, sorry. Oh no, here it is. If you need access to put your application in because you're needing some help, you can contact this business hotline directly. Now there was a number here. Yeah, for further information, again, they refer to the small business hotline. And there was another, they seem to have taken that part off. Or it's somewhere else. So again, the $1,000 grants, register your interest there. The employing eligibility, you can either gather the information yourself or go through to your accountant. I don't believe there's much more I can talk about. I've gone through anything, so I'm open to any questions and answers. Just gone through the guidelines. I'm just going through to see, again, further information. They just keep referring to the 1300 654 687 number on the small business hotline if you need any further information. And under the frequently asked questions, again, they keep referring, you can't submit in person, you have to go through the portal. If you need help applying online, you can call the hotline, or you can email this cbsg@desbt.qld.gov.au. And again, as mentioned earlier, if your business is new and you don't have the turnover, so long as you've been registered as a business by 30th of June and you can demonstrate that you'll be able to meet that $75,000 turnover for the year. And multiple business, if you have more than one business that's eligible, but you can't apply twice for the funding, the same funding for the same business. But if you have two separate businesses that are both eligible, it's saying that you can apply. Okay. So again, registration's fairly simple. It's a very quick process through QRIDA. They are engaged. So last time, so when we go through the grant schedule, some of these have information available. So, for example, if we were looking at the Business Basics grant, they give you all of these information, application guidelines, terms and conditions. That's the sort of information for round 2 documents will be available on the 25th of August. So that may be of interest to you, and we'll be running another session on that on the 25th of August. Again, with this one has a very short time span for being open, because it's a specific grant, and as soon as it opens and they get a quota of applications submitted, it shuts off. So last time it opened, it was open for 3 hours, and they had 3,000 applications in that 3-hour period. The difference between that grant and this particular grant is that this is open and there's no limit to the amount of applications. So all eligible businesses who apply for this grant during the 3-month application period will receive funding. So it's going to be open from, well, it's already open and will close on the 16th of November this year. And again, we don't have any information yet. So I'll be back on next Tuesday running the seminar again, webinar. And hopefully by that stage, we'll have some more information about the non-employing sole traders, whether that does include company owners who are self-employed. So I really don't know the answer to that at this point in time, because it's just not available. So I don't think there's anything much more I can add to what's been told, but if you have any questions, as mentioned on my on through here, go through to Business Station. I am going to be running the Business Basics 2 webinar next week, which will be in preparation for the applications that will be out according to the schedule for the Small Business Basics Grant Round 2. And that's pretty much the amount of funding that's out at the moment. So the one to look for is this 5,000, which will be coming out. If you're not eligible for these, this may be another opportunity to get some other activities for your business, which will pay for training, coaching, a website builder upgrade, professional business advice, strategic marketing services, or business continuity and succession. So they will have some opportunities there. It is a competitive assessment, so not every application that gets accepted through the portal, like if 3,000 apply, not all 3,000 will get the funding. It's a competitive assessment round. So that's how that particular grant operates. Unlike this particular one, there's no competitive assessment. You just have to meet the eligibility criteria. Okay, well, I think I'll close off now. I don't think there's anything more I can add to the session. So if you're interested in the Business Basics grant, tune in next Tuesday. Not next Tuesday, after the 25th. It's on the, there'll be a, through Business Station, there should be a calendar there, which has that one listed there. And I'll go into that in a lot more detail, because there is some selection criteria and other parts to it, unlike this. And again, watch, I hope you've managed to get the copies of those links, and have a look at those links. And if you are a non-employing sole trader, then I would be encouraging you to register for that. If not, there's 2 options. You can supply all of the information that's required for the application through your own information that you might have through your RAMS account, through MyGov, or you can go through your accountant and they'll prepare a letter You might have to pay them, most likely, for them to prepare that for you so that you can apply for the grant to help you during this time. So thank you for your attention today. If you're interested again next week for the Business Basics grant, again, that'll be out next week and I'll be running a session on that. In the meantime, information is there. Register where you can. And I hope this has been of some value to you and wish you all the very best. Stay safe and hope to see you next week for the Business Basics grant. And I will sign off. Thank you. So if you want to just copy those links, I'll just say thank you for your attendance. And I will close off now. So thank you very much. And is there any questions at all before I close off? Everyone's fine? Thank you very much. I will close off now. Thank you.